If you have any questions before I start the session, we can discuss that now. And then I'll be giving time for the queries. So here, anybody has anything to clarify before we start the session?
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Bhaskar, Dhananjay here.
Yeah, then.
You are giving recording sessions, right? Every day?
Yes, yeah. I'll be sharing that.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Did your friend join, Dhananjay?
I think he will join.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay. I started recording the session. And some of you already attended the session on Wednesday. We had a demo session, like some overview. Even though it was an overview and demo, I think definitely there was some useful information for you guys. So I will quickly recap that what we discussed, and then we'll continue with the next part. So we are going to learn Oracle Integration Cloud along with some Fusion Technical. So the course is organized into mainly 4 parts here. The part 1, okay, let me also open that course contents once again. So the course contents is it is available on IQStream website. So here, in fact, not 3 or 4 parts, I would say. The part 1, we're going to start with the basics of our web technologies and web services. Then we'll be understanding about OIC concepts and different components of OIC. We'll be doing different kind of use cases. We'll be doing like one small project work as part of that. So we're going to do in-depth and comprehensive use cases in Oracle Integration Cloud. That's a part 1, along with the basics and fundamentals. Then in the part 2, we are going to learn Fusion Technical, understanding about some reporting, file-based data import, what is scheduling, Oracle Enterprise Scheduler, and file import export and that kind of stuff in the Fusion Technical. Okay, I'm just muting everyone. If you want to talk, you can unmute yourself. Sorry for that. And in the part 3, we'll be doing some advanced integrations with Fusion applications, like automating the FBDI, automating downloading the PIP reports, and creating like some Fusion records, like the suppliers and that kind of stuff with different use cases and so on in the part 3. So the part 1 is integration cloud, part is Fusion Technical, part 2 is actually not very wide. We'll be doing like a little shorter, that one, because our focus is completely on the integration here. And the part 3, we are like going with very advanced integrations, right? So by end of the part 3, you will be the expert of integration cloud and automating like several parts of your Fusion integrations. You will be in a position to come up with solutions for any kind of integration problems. Okay. Part 4 is a little, in fact, it's a, I would say, just additional stuff which is not really part of integration cloud. I'll be giving some overview about ADF with some example, and also Visual Builder Cloud Service with one example, and some good amount of overview about Oracle Server also. So with this particular activities, Oracle Server, if you know, the concepts are very similar to integration cloud, what you're learning in integration cloud. So you'll be in a better position to take some decisions when you have to like decide whether to go for SOA and OIC, etc. Okay, so that's how the course is in fact organized. All right. So what we discussed other day, we discussed about understanding about what is a web technology or a web application architecture. In fact, this is also called Model View Controller Architecture, Model View Controller Architecture, or MVC. So here we have one web server which is sitting in between your browser, that is a UI, and the backend database. So the web server or application server will be acting as a middleware, and we can have server-side components developed in different like technologies like Java or PHP, C#, etc. So when any request comes from the browser, the UI, your web server will be forwarding the request to your server-side component, and that has a responsibility of communicating with the database and getting the required data, and then we are going to convert that into HTML and it goes to the browser. Okay. Then we also talked about what is Fusion Middleware. Mainly there are 4 parts: ADF, Oracle Server, OBA, and OAM. These are the important modules of Fusion Middleware. There are many other things added now. And the WebLogic server is the basic runtime environment or the application server used in the Fusion Middleware. So in case of ADF, it is used for end-to-end application development. And we also have the VBCS now in the same area. Oracle Server used for integrations, and we have again Oracle Integration Cloud in the same area now. OBI is for reporting, and OIM is access control. Okay, and then we also talked about what is the purpose of integration and how to achieve that, right? 1 second, please. Okay. So the purpose of integration, wherever you have 2 different applications, 2 or more applications, which may be developed in heterogeneous technologies, you would like to exchange some data among those applications. So the old, the traditional solutions using database or DB link accessing direct database may not be sufficient because there might be a lot of logic sitting in the middleware, and that won't be possible to access directly from the database side from some other application. So we also learned that web service is going to be a solution for that one. Okay, and how the web service is going to solve that issue, the reason behind that or the solution behind that, the web service is actually using the web application like the same concept. So the web server, the web service is going to expose the functionality as a URL. So once it becomes URL, any client developed in any technology will be able to access that URL. So that's how it becomes very generic, like no functionality, which is exposed as a web service, and it can be invoked by any technology and without being in the same location as well. It can be on some other host somewhere else, as long as there's a connectivity between both the host client and server within the network. Right, so that is the just quick overview about what we discussed in the last overview session, like demo session, I would say. So we'll take it forward from there. Right, so we also already just now talked about like what I'll be covering in the Fusion application, integration cloud as part of training. You'll be getting instance access for Fusion applications, right? Fusion SaaS, and you'll be getting instance access for OIC and also FTP server. I'll be sharing the details. So first we're going to start with Oracle Integration Cloud, and then I'll be sharing this one when we go to that portion, and after that FTP server also I'll be sharing in between. Right, coming to Integration Cloud, we are going to start with the fundamentals. We may not be doing Oracle Integration Cloud example today, or I may be showing like the first one today, Hello World. But before that, we are going to work with certain topics about understanding about XML, XSD, WSDL, and what are the SOAP web services and REST web services, and what is JSON. These are some fundamentals we are going to learn today before we enter into Oracle Integration Cloud practices. Any questions before I talk about these things? You want to add anything? You want to do something different?
Bhaskar, I have one question.
Yes.
My name is Vamshi.
Yeah, Vamshi.
Yeah, this instance access is there at OIC and FTP servers. Means you will give the access to practice, or you are going to guide how to get this instance.
I'm giving the instance access.
Okay.
I'll be giving instance.
Okay. Means, for example, in the future we wanted to do practice
you'll be getting access for 3 months, all these things.
Okay, okay.
Minimum 3 months, and then we can also extend if you really need it.
Okay, okay. This FTP server, everything means you will show, right, how to create FTP server, all these things.
FTP server, I'm going to give the cloud FTP server. You'll be able to access that directly.
Okay.
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 Right.
Thank you.
All right. Any other things you want clarification?
Hello, Bhaskar.
Yeah.
What happens? What about if you are trying to connect to on-premise FTP server?
On-premise FTP server, you cannot connect from the integration cloud.
No, I heard you can connect. That's
File
it's
application, directly file system, you can connect.
no. Using what is that called as firewall tunneling? You can connect. I heard.
I'm not sure. As long as FTP server is accessible as a like outside your network, then you'll be able to access. If it is not exposed, then you cannot access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bhaskar, may I hear how we can connect to the on-premises apps? Because
Using agent, we'll be talking about
okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Means you are going to show on-premises application also?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be doing actually many examples using on-premise and database, accessing the database, and also file system, all that stuff.
Means
Why
that
I asked is because, sorry for telling this, because most of our systems currently are on-premise. That's why not.
Yeah, you will get clarity on that, Karthik. Don't worry.
Okay.
We'll be discussing more on that.
Hey,
There
Bhaskar,
is a way
Mohan
to
here.
access using agent. You can access anything which is like now available on-premise.
Hey, Bhaskar, Mohan here.
Yeah, hi Mohan.
Hey, can't we use the agent runner to connect to your local FTP?
No, FTP server doesn't have that option actually. FTP connection. When you're creating FTP connection,
You don't have agent group there?
it doesn't have agent group configuration. I'm not sure why they didn't give that, because
Okay.
FTP server is I think supposed to be available probably like outside your network.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Because I mean, most of the integrations, right? We use our own
Right.
FTPs, right? We
Okay,
never
we'll
use
see
the
anyway.
cloud thing.
What
Yeah,
to do
no
with that.
issues.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead, go
one
ahead.
specific thing. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So coming to XML, XSD, and WSDL, I believe most of you people already use some sort of XML, right? XML is pretty easy to understand. It's very obvious. So let me try to open any XML, and then let us just go through that first. So I'll be sharing this, all this information, all this whole folder, whatever I'm showing OSS session resources.
Hi Bhaskar, I'm not able to view your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, even I am not able to
I'm
view your
sharing.
screen.
Sorry. Yeah. I just stopped in between. Yeah, so whatever the folder I'm showing here, OSC session resources, this whole thing will be shared with you guys. So it means whatever I'm able to access in the files folder here, or whatever I'm seeing here is available to you guys. I'll be sharing that after the session today. Okay, so here under files, let me take any XML. So let's say I'm taking this employee XML. Is it easy to understand? Yeah, it's pretty obvious. What we're telling here is this is an employee record, which is available in the XML representation. And this is the root node of your employee XML. And it has some sub elements, name, ID, experience, age, salary, etc. Name, this is called element, and this is the ending of element. Ending of element contains /. In between, we are having some data. So it means name of this employee record. In this employee record, the name is David, ID is 2345, experience is 12, and so on. There is no commission, it's empty. If you want to compare this with your database record, your database is having a table is having one record, and you have the different fields in that, something similar to that. This is each field, right? And then you are having the data. So why do we need XML? Can't I just send like this? Can't I represent this whole thing like this? I can, right? I can represent like this also. This also, you can say it's a employee record. There is no problem. But there is one limitation with this. If I don't send this one, if I send this one to somebody and say this is employee record, how are they going to refer that? How are they going to interpret that? Is this the employee ID or this is the employee ID? Don't know, right? This is the experience or what is this one? So there is no meaning. Only the data if you are sending, sometimes, I mean, it may be difficult to understand, interpret what is the meaning of each field. Otherwise, what you have to do, you have to send a separate document to them saying, this record is comma separated. The first field of this record is name, second field is ID, and so on. You have to separate ID or some document you have to share them. Then only they'll be able to interpret it, right? Then it becomes difficult. So if you're automating any applications, when you're developing some tools, and if your application is getting this kind of payload or some data, if you want to read that, pass it, and automatically understand, it's going to be difficult, because you always need to depend on something else to understand what is the meaning of each of these fields. So that is the reason XML become very, very successful and so much used in the industry, because your data and the meaning of data are together in the document. That is one reason. What is the second reason? The second reason is this is very, very flexible and extensible. Why? What is the meaning of extensible or flexible? Let's say my employee is represented like this. You are saying your employee is something different. Your employee is not like this. My employee is having employee and not city. I'm also having one address like this. Okay. And inside address, I have my street name, right? Something street. And then I'm also having some city like that. Yes, no problem. You can add more fields and you can say this is going to be the representation of employee according to your requirement. Right? You can extend it. You can make it as you need it based on your requirement. These two are different XMLs. You cannot say this is also employee record. Yes, but this employee XML and this employee XML different now. But it's flexible to change according to your requirement in the applications. Okay, that is one reason. In fact, those two reasons are sufficient, right? You can make it flexible as whatever you need, and also the data along with meaning, both are together, right? Let's also open one more XML, just a little bit more complex one. Let's say I'm opening this one. This is a little bit more complex. This is the order representation. What generally order contains? Order contains maybe some order ID. It may contain customer details. Again, the customer contains customer ID and name. According to my requirement, this is my order representation, and it has a repetition of some item. You can say item 1, item 2, 3, 4 like that. And every item contains same number of fields. ID, name, price, ID, name, price. Okay. And this item can be repeated any number of times. That is my requirement. So this is order representation of XML. Not difficult to understand. Okay. Any quick questions on this XML? Because XML, I'm not going to talk anything much more. We're going to talk about XSG now. Right. So when it comes to XSD, first of all, what is the purpose of XSD? Why do we need? So before we learn anything, we'll ask this question: why do we need to learn, right? We don't want to simply waste time if there is no use of that. Okay, so the purpose of this one, XSD. So before that, let's understand little bit about web service, or what is a function means, etc. In PLSQL also, when you're writing any package, and the package contains the functions or procedures, right? So now every function contains a name, correct? It also may contain some input parameters, and it may also contain some output or the return value. So usually we can represent this is the input and this is the output from your function, correct? Even the procedure also may contain out parameters, right? Now when you are saying input parameters, what are you going to say? I will input parameter, I'm going to say employee ID number, correct? Like this. And then if you want to take some varchar, like you may be having some other param 2, and I would say varchar 2, like that. So for every field or every parameter what you are going to accept in your functional procedure, you will be having some data type defined, or it could be some table type also. You may be creating some table type, and then that custom type also you can put here. I'm getting some message. Okay. 1 second, please. Okay. Right. So, so this is the function. Now, why I'm telling this one? When we go to web services, right? Specifically in case of SOAP-based web services. We are going to do a lot of SOAP-based web services examples in the integration cloud also. And in the industry presently, there are two types of web services. One is SOAP and another one is a REST. Correct? We'll be talking about the difference later. But for now, taking the reference of SOAP-based web services. So what is a web service? Web service also going to provide something like your package. In PSQL package, you're having functions, procedures, right? Web service also will contain a web service name, okay? And that web service may contain, several operations. Operations are nothing but functions and procedures. In case of web services, we don't call function or procedure, we say operations. So every operation will contain again like one operation one. So operation one will contain a name. So let's say this is operation one is the name, and that may contain again input and output. So in case of SOAP-based web services, everything is going to be XML. That is the standard you have to follow. So what do you mean everything? Everything means whatever the data or the payload you want to exchange between client and server. Like when I'm calling the function, I'll be sending some input parameters, right? Or when I'm getting the output, I'm getting some some response. In case of functions also, the same thing similar to in the web service operations. The input and output what we are going to deal with will be always in XML. There is no other option in case of SOAP-based web services. Okay. Now what you're telling is, if I'm going to have a get employee details, for example, is my operation, and my input is employee ID. I cannot say employee ID number like this, right? Instead of that, what I have to say, I have to mention that this web service is going to receive input an XML representation of employee ID. So when you say XML representation of employee ID, it has to be something like this. The client has to pass like this. Otherwise, your service cannot accept it. You cannot simply send 100. You have to send like this. If it is the output, you are telling employee details, and employee details also has to be in some XML format, something like this maybe. You have to say my web service will be returning an XML of this structure. You have to mention like that. Now, when you say this structure, when you are defining your specification of a function or procedure, you are going to mention the data types. You will not say 100 or actual record, right? You won't say that in the definition. During runtime, when the request comes, you are going to pass the value. It means during runtime, when I'm going to call the web service, the client has to send like this. But when you are defining the details of the operation, you have to mention something here to indicate that it is going to take this format. Same way here also. I cannot say in the definition, I cannot mention like this XML there. You have to mention that it is going to return a record of a XML document which will follow the structure. How are you going to mention that? That has to be nothing but data type, right? When you say here employee ID number means you're telling the data type. Here also you tell some type basically. But this is an XML type, not a simple type. So how do you mention XML type? That you can achieve using XSD. So XSD is going to help us to define structure of a specific XML document. So one XSD represents one structure, like one specific structure. Like this is employee. When I say employee like this, the employee document may be like this. It could be any other record also which is following same fields, and the data may be different like this, correct? It's a different instance of that XML structure. Okay, so now coming back here, the XSD is going to help us define structure of a specific XML document. Now, how do we mention that? Let us go and see one example. again, we are going to focus integration cloud. XSD is nothing to do with only integration cloud or XML or web service. Right? These are the fundamentals are there in the market, in the industry for many years. But we have to learn those fundamentals to work in integration cloud. So that is the reason we are going to learn this, but we are not going to spend too much time on these topics. Okay, but you will be learning enough what you need for working on the integration cloud or any integrations in general, right? Okay, so now let us open one XSD. If I'm going fast, just ask me to go slow. Generally I'll be going a little fast in this session because it's the fundamentals. We don't want to prolong too much. Okay, but if you want me to just go a little slow, I can do that. Not a problem. Now let's take this. Okay, so we have this. Let me close some of these documents. Right, so we have this employee. Just don't look at this much. Okay. Actually, what happened, on this Zoom, somebody changed the configuration. Actually, it is shared by a couple of trainers, and they have shared something to change the configuration to have a password, and also it is asking to permission of the host to join. I will be checking that after today's session. I'll be removing that. That is the reason you people are facing some problems. Sorry for that. Actually, it just happened today. Yesterday. It was not like that. So I didn't have time to check, remove that. Okay. So now coming back to XML XSD. Now let us look at this XSD. This is on the right side is XSD, on the left is XML. These are very simple to learn or understand, but you have to practice. Okay, you'll be practicing. I'll tell what to practice. Now, if you look at this XSD, what do you have on the right? This we'll talk later. This portion let us learn first. It is starting with XSD : element and ending with XSD : element. Before that, we will also having schema, and then we are having schema. Just to make it little more, it may be confusing, but this is also an XML. Okay, don't deviate from that. This is also an XML, but what we are doing is actually XSD. So means XSD also written in XML. Okay. So what XSD contains? It contains a root element name. Then it will contain other elements of the XML, the definition of those elements. So in this case, what is the root element? Root element name is employee. So for that, there is a definition. We are telling the root element of the XML, which will follow this XSD, is going to be employee. Okay. Then employee contains, or employee is a complex type. What is a complex type means? It's basically a group of other elements. It's a complex type with a sequence of other elements. You are defining whatever you want. I want this kind of XML. For that, I am defining XSD. Sequence of additional elements. What are those elements? One element is name, one more element is ID, and so on accordingly. And every element is also having a type. It means my element name is going to carry the data of string, type of string. My element ID will be carrying integer, and my element CT will be carrying string, and so on. Okay, if you want, you can also change this based on your requirement. For example, salary is not just integer, you want to make it float. You can do that also. If you make it only integer, then the XML, which is going to say, I am conforming to so and so XSD, and in the XSD, the salary is defined as integer, then you cannot have the decimal values for such salary. So you have to make sure your XSD is properly designed, which will represent your actual XML requirement. Okay. So now only the two things we are talking about in this XSD, right? One is an element which doesn't have its own type. An element is nothing within a complex type element. An element which is also called leaf element, That means the element contains a type. The element also has a type. Only two things. Now, the complex type may contain sequence of any other elements. Can this become complex element again? Yes, you can make any other also complex elements if you need it. For example, if a requirement was like this one, then what will happen? You are going to create one more element called element here, address here. The addresses will not contain the type attribute. The type attribute is not there, means it will be generally complex type. So you are going to again write complex type, and then you are going to say what is the type. Okay, I will be showing one example of that one. Let me show that. Then okay, I'll show that later. Let us first talk a little bit about this one. Anything not clear between this and this? This will talk. In this portion, anything not clear? Okay. If you want to talk, please unmute. Okay, I can't hear otherwise. So I'm assuming that.
Bhaskar, can you repeat once again that XML and XSD difference, if you don't mind?
XML is the actual XML document. XSD is you're taking it as a type basically. You are telling if I say my XML will follow this XSD, that means you cannot use only these elements. What are the elements? Employee, name, ID, experience, age, salary, city, bonus. In this manner. If
Okay.
I say my XML is, if I say my XML is following this XSD, you have to make sure you are following the structure of that XSD.
Okay.
Or indirectly you are telling when you are writing an XSD, you are writing an XSD to represent a specific structure of XML. Okay?
Thank you.
No problem.
So
Now,
XSD,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. So XSD is having some specific tags which are complex type and sequence. We need to write under these elements tags only.
Yes.
Actually, it was missed by me. Somehow my net connection was gone.
Okay. No problem. XSD it has some predefined types.
Okay.
So you have to use only those types, but those types are sufficient. Usually, like when you're talking XML, only 2 types you are having, or 3 types. One is integer, one is float, and one could be your string. Usually that will be sufficient to represent any data, what we want to exchange. Right?
Okay.
Float, integer, and string is
Uh,
usually
Bhaskar,
sufficient.
yeah, one more question. So XML, this document should follow our XML schema. So the elements should be same in our document, or we means we can remove some. Our XML document can contain only name and ID field with value, or the element should be the sub element should be the same as per schema definition in our XML data file.
Right. It has to be same, but if you think like some of these elements may be
No, like commission, so we have to pass. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So no, commission, if you want to make it optional, you can do that. There's actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, here there is no commission here, right? In fact, these are not correct. So let me remove this. This is the correct one. This is now following this XSD. But even in this case also, if you want to make it bonus also an option, for example. So when I'm writing in XML, I will say it is still following this like this XSD, but my bonus element should be like optional. Then what you have to tell is there is something called min occurs equal to 0. You have to mention that in the XSD. Then it becomes optional.
Optional. Okay.
So
Okay,
these are some attributes we have to learn.
We have to set some properties, then we can escape that element in our XML
Yes.
file. Okay,
Yeah,
got
exactly.
it. Thanks.
No problem.
Bhaskar, about the sequence. So the sequence tag is there, right, on 9th line number. So what does it represent? Basically, if we say it has only, if our XSD, if we want only one element, that is name in employee. So even in that case, sequence is required.
Yes.
Okay.
If
So
you
what
have
does it represent?
if you have a hierarchical data, you have to put that sequence, even if it is 1.
Okay,
Like,
thank you.
yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, now what we'll do is, I'll take the questions again, even if you're not asked, don't worry. Let's take this XML, right? This is an interesting XML, little more interesting compared to employee. It is having like no sub and also some repetition as there. I want to develop an XSD for this one. So before developing a web service, you need to have the XSD usually. Nowadays, there are tools available. The platforms are helping us to like automatically generate the XSDs. In that case, we will need only sample XML. Okay. But for example, if you're going to use Oracle SOA for the integration or MuleSoft, something like that, those platforms may not be automatically generating the XSD based on your XML. There you have to generate the XSD outside your integration platform, and then you have to go and use it in your integrations. So now my question is, if I have an XML requirement like this, so I'm creating like some specifications for my web services, and then I have realized that input for my web service will be an order, and that order is going to follow this structure. And for that, I want to create one XSD. How that should look like? First of all, even if you know how it should look like, typing is going to be very tedious. You don't want to really spend time on creating XSD, like typing element name equal to, and something may go wrong and then it will like break. So there are tools available even outside the integration platforms also. So let us go and check some tools. What is happening to this one? Yeah. So let us go and, sorry for this. So here, what do we want to XSD? Generate XSD for XML. You search for that. There are many tools available online also. So I open this XSD XML schema generator. So what it is telling you, copy paste your XML here, then it can generate the XSD for you. So I'll take this XML, a little more complex one. Paste here. Then generate XSD. So it's generating some XSD. Let's copy this to one notepad here. Let me save that so that it is going to show that proper highlighting, etc. I'll not show in that files. I'll be showing that in a temp form. This is order.xsd. It actually looks simpler compared to XML, right? Smaller one. Why? Because yes, it is a repetition of items, but that you are going to tell with like some grammar here. So what is here now? Let's try to understand this. Again, the first two lines we'll talk later. So here we're having an element. The root element is order. That's correct, no? In fact, you can minimize all this. You will come to know that order is the top element, which contains only 3 elements here. One is order ID, customer, and items. The same thing will be available here also. Order is a complex type with a sequence of 3 elements. 3 elements. One is order ID, which carries 100, means like it is some number. It is assumed byte. But if you think it is going to be longer number also, you can change it to integer, no problem. When you generate, the tool is generating based on some sample data. It is assuming something, you can change it if you think that is different. Then you expand the customer here. Customer contains 2 elements, correct? Customer complex type, sequence of 2 elements, ID and name. ID and name. ID, it is taking short. Name, it is taking string. This also, if you want to make it integer, you can do that. Then it comes to items. What is items? Items is going to repeat item. So there is an element called items. So how are you going to mention it is going to repeat item? First of all, we don't know items level, you're not going to say anything. But when it comes to item, so what you're telling is a sequence of an element called item. Item itself is again a complex type that contains ID, name and price. ID, name and price. But this item can occur n number of times. That means unbounded. You are going to have an attribute property called max occurrence equal to unbounded. It is also assuming min occurrence equal to 0. It means there may not be item. But if you, according to your requirements, if you think at least one item should be there when you say it is an order, then you can remove this min occurrence. Then your requirement will be solved. So telling item is mandatory field, but you can repeat any number of times. So to get that kind of behavior, you are going to get max occurrence equal to unbound. It's not complex, right? It looks complex, but it's not. Once you know these terms, then it becomes easy to, it becomes familiar to you. Anything not clear in this? Don't think he's just going like, no, yeah, but XSD is that much only you have to learn. Okay, no need to spend too much time on this.
Bhaskar Surendra here.
Yes.
So the item is, unbounded means the tool will be defined. So the item will be unbounded. So n number of time. The tool you copied, right?
It becomes on the sample item. See, in the sample XML.
Okay.
When
so the
I
item is
generated,
multiple times there in sample XML. So that's the reason it has taken.
Yes, it identified that it is exactly same definition,
Okay.
repeated multiple times, and it is the child element of items. You can see that.
Okay.
So that's the reason assuming that it is a repeated element.
Okay.
Yeah, the tool is having that intelligence. If you are develop also, you have to write like that. If you are writing manually also, yeah.
Yeah, Bhaskar, one question. Is any other tag like the sequence element and complex type? So any other tag is there in XSSD which we need to know?
There are actually some tags which, we may not be needing to know, but yes, XSD is actually also having many advanced things. Okay. But usually, like what we'll be dealing with, what we need to know, that's what we are just learning here. Okay, I will tell you how to explore further if you really interested and curious on that.
So basically, these many tags are used for our working purpose.
Requirement, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You will also come across some other elements going forward when we are doing some integrations. We'll be seeing that. Okay, there is a way to represent even CSV file in XSD, but that we'll be doing when you are doing some integrations. We'll be generating that, and I'll be talking about that also in video.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So now, if this portion is clear, I will be talking about the top portion, which I was skipping so far. Okay. Please ask. Okay. Don't hesitate to ask the doubts. That's the only way you can learn. If you hesitate, then gone. Then you will not get a chance to ask again. Even if it's very simple, you ask it. No problem.
Bhaskar, I have one question. Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, will we get the situation like we will write the XML file and XSD in our OSC training, or like?
Yes, we will be. We may need to generate some XSDs also, but usually you don't need OSC because OSC platform can always take sample XML also. Sample XML, yes, you have to create minimum. Okay. So XSD you may not be creating, but you should definitely know XSD because you may come across many situations where you have to open the XSD and understand what is the structure of your XML going to be, etc. So it's a good idea to know XSD, even if not very advanced. At least a basic understanding should be there.
Okay, thank you.
No. Writing sample XML is not complex, right? I'm sure everybody can write any complex XML. XML is again just like, like this only. You are having one element, sub-element, element, sub-element like that. Based on how you want to represent your data, you have to create your sample XML. So once you have the sample XML, then generate a XSD and use it if you want. Or your platform is already having a feature like the power of generating XSDs, then you are even like good. You can just write XML and then you can just pass it. We'll see what is it. Don't think too much about how I'm going to pass the XML to platform. That will be anyway doing, okay? So just think within the precise scope now, XML, XSD, that much. And then we'll come to know the application of this going forward. Okay, let me go back to my employee XSD, which was simple one. This one, right? So here, a few more things are there on top. One thing is having XML NS :XSD, and then it's having some URL here or some value, I would say. And then you're having one more thing called target namespace. That's also having some URL, or I would say that's also some value here. And in between, there's also something called XML NS. Whenever it is XML NS, you can read that as XML namespace. Okay, XML namespace. Here XML NS, and this is also XML NS, but this is also having colon and some value, but this doesn't have any colon, right? So these are the three things you should be understanding. What is the purpose of this? So first, let's understand this one. When you say :XSD, what you're telling that you are going to import some target namespace here. You're going to import some target namespace. What is target namespace? Every XSD will be having its own target namespace, or it can be part of a target namespace. It can be part of any target namespace. You have to define some target namespace. Even for this XSD, you are defining a target namespace. You can see that. So what I'm telling, the employee XSD, what I'm defining here, will be referred using this target namespace. The value for the target namespace, this is what I defined here. What is this one? It's a URL, but the value need not be URL. This can be simple text also. This can be simple text also. But the common practice in any XSD, you will be seeing the target namespace value will be always URL. That is just to make your value unique. Otherwise, like I can say ABC and somebody also telling ABC, there can be conflict again. So the target namespace is basically going to, it's going to help to make your XSD definition available in a unique manner. So when I say employee name may not be unique, no? So if I go to integration, my integration is accessing 5 different web services from different sources. Now one web service is saying, when I'm accessing, like it's giving me employee as a response. Web service definition says that employee is based on this XSD. Now one more web service is also saying that is also employee. But that employee XSD XML is different from this employee XML, but both are having same XSD name. Then there could be conflict also, right? So then it will be like difficult to understand when I say employee, which employee I'm talking about. So that is the reason you always make sure that your XSD is always having some target namespace also. And you'll try to make that value unique by using URL of your company usually. So if I'm creating, probably I may be creating something like, let's say I'm creating for IQStream Tech. So I can say www.iqstreamtech.com. Then I would say training April 20 employee. I can mention this because you are defining XSD. It's up to you what namespace you want to define for your XSD. Once you define, you have to keep that one, because now the XML will be referring to your XSD using this target namespace. How it is something like this. When any XML going to refer any other target namespace, that XML will contain a property called XML namespace NS, and it is going to have a prefix. Okay, and the prefix means, in fact, it's a suffix here, but the elements coming from the target namespace will be referred using this as a prefix. I'm mixing two things here, don't get confused. One thing is how to define target namespace for your own XSD. At the same time, I'm also mentioning here how to refer elements of an existing target namespace in your XML. This is a document which is XML and also XSD. Yes or no? Do you agree with that? This is a document which is also XML and also an XSD. So when I'm talking in terms of XML, it is referring some target namespace. Which target namespace? This one. What is this one? This is a standard target namespace. All the definitions of your XSD, like data type, like string, what is the meaning of element? What is the meaning of sequence? What is the meaning of complex type? All these things are defined in one target namespace. That is the standard target namespace, which is like library. That I am referring with this. This is a value. This you cannot change because this is, I'm not defining. I'm referring to an existing target namespace. The target namespace is defined with this name. So I'm referring that in this XML document. I'm going to use this XSD as a prefix to use the elements coming from that XSD or that target namespace. When I say element, anything like what you are referring, you can see XSD colon. If I don't put XSD colon, it doesn't know what is the meaning of string here. Okay, so that is the reason you have to put XSD. Why only XSD here? Because I'm telling, I'm referring this target namespace using XSD. If I make it X1 here, then you have to make every XSD as X1, 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 X1. Okay, so that's how you are using XSD. That's how you are going to refer elements of an existing target namespace or existing XSD using XML NS property. Okay, now before I change this one, what was the target namespace? Like this, correct? This was the target namespace. Now you've seen one more thing here. What is that? It is having one more XML NS property. Don't get bored, please. I'll be finishing up this fast because this is not really that critical, but we need to just know. So you can ask questions. I will just give time in another 5 minutes. So XML NS, without any prefix also, there is one property. And the value of your target namespace and the value what you're giving for your without prefix XML NS are exactly same. You can see that. Yes, STP, WW, UNDRA, GO, UG, IT, EMP, both are same values. What is the purpose? I will tell you that. For that, I will show one more example. Let me open POXSD. Okay. In this little different XSD, no? I'm using this target namespace like XML schema 2001 WW03RG, that one, which was also there in that employee. Where was that exist? Sorry, this one. See here, I was using XSD as a reference for calling this target namespace. But whereas when I come to POXSD, the POXSD, I'm referring that without any prefix. You can see that. That is the reason when I come to my XSD document, I'm not using XSD colon everywhere. You see, I'm not using anywhere like that. I'm putting string. It means anything coming from the target namespace, I'm going to refer without any prefix. Okay. Now, I'm having one XML namespace. You can define any number of XML NS properties based on how many target names we are going to refer. And then you are going to use those as a prefix when you are using any of the items, any terms in your XML. Okay. Coming here, my target namespace is HTTP XML NS Oracle.
Bhaskar, sorry for asking this. Can you repeat that last statement?
Okay, last statement. What was that? So the last statement
from whatever the purchase order and target namespace XML NS, you said you are not keeping it anywhere, right? From there.
This one you mean the prefix? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can see here, everywhere I'm keeping XSD colon, right?
Yes.
But there is no XSD colon here.
Yeah. So why
But
you
do you
were
think it's a wrong one? Do you think no, it's not wrong, right? Only thing is, you see the definition here. This is our standard target namespace for XSD. Using XSD terms like using string, integer, etc. But what I'm telling here, I'm going to refer that one using XSD as a prefix. That's why I have to use it. In this document, what I said, I'm going to refer this one without any prefix. That's why I'm using without any prefix. It's how you define your document.
Okay.
Can I have more XML NS without prefix? No. You need to have only one XML NS without prefix. If you're going to have more than one, it is going to create confusion again. But I can have XML NS with n number of prefixes like P0, X1, X2, X3, if I'm going to refer something from other XSDs, other target namespaces. Okay, now, here we are telling, is that clear, Karthik? Okay, was a minute clear.
Yes.
Now, target namespace equal to this one. I mean, this is what I am defining for my XSD. Now, what I said here, XML NS colon PO equals to also same value. If you look at that one, you can see that it's exactly same value. I put same. Why? Because let's try to understand this XSD now. This XSD is saying there is one element called name equal to purchase order. Okay. Wait 1 second. Okay, so there is one. Yeah, so there is here now there is a pivot. Okay, now let's try to understand element name equal to purchase order. What is the meaning of that one? Whenever I say element name equal to something, that is going to be root element of my XML, which are the XML is going to use this one. Okay. Now what is the type of this one? I said type equal to pivot colon purchase order type. What is pivot colon? I never used like that, right? In this case, we said string, integer, etc. In this case, what we are telling, pivot colon purchase order means this is defined in the target namespace, which is referred using pivot. What is the pivot here? Pivot target namespace is the same target namespace that I am defining in my document. The meaning of that, in fact, what you are saying, purchase order type is defined within the same document. You can see that there is a definition here. You can also do like this. You can define some elements like this. Okay, I'm defining an element called purchase order type, which is going to be complex type. It's going to be sequence of these elements. Then I'm referring that one here in stuff directly. I can also write this a little different also. If I want to write this one differently, what I can do, I need not mention this one. Instead of this one, what I can say, sorry. I can also say like this. Then element. This will be also exactly same. Directly I'm saying, no, this won't be there in that case. So you can say complex type sequence of these elements. Purchase order is going to be complex type. Instead of that, what this guy done, I didn't mention immediately there. I don't, because readability may be better in this case. What I'm telling, purchase order is going to be of type this element, and that element is this one. In order to get this kind of functionality, then you need to have something to refer. So how you will mention that? Using XML-NS definition. Okay, so I mentioned XML-NS PO is going to refer this target namespace. This target namespace is nothing but the target namespace of my own document. That means whatever I'm going to prefix with PO in my document will be available in the same document. So this is usually useful when there is a reusable items. In this case, it's not reused, may not be a very good example, but there are some places where you may want to reuse one element multiple times. What it could be, let's say I'm defining in one XSD, you can define more than 2 elements, right? Let's say I'm having one customer element. Okay, I'm also going to have one employee element. 2 things are there. Can you do that? Yes. One XSD can contain definition for more than 1 root elements. Okay, like this. So when I can say now customer element name equal to customer, that is 1 element. Then I'm going to end this element. Then I'm going to have one more element, name equal to employee. Then I'm ending that one also. I'm just telling because I have to explain one last concept. Element. There are 2 elements here. Yes, I can have it. But the customer contains some fields here, ID, name, etc. All that. It also contains something called address. So what I will do, I would say this is going to be complex type and all that we will be doing, right? That's okay. Now, one element I said ID, whatever. Then the last element, what I said, address. So address, we'll say element name equal to address. Then type. Type what I want to say. Type equals to PO colon address type. I can see this, do this one. So this is a complex. Let me just copy this or this one. This also. Just pay a little bit. I mean, if 5 more minutes patience, please. This is really little bit confusing. Okay, it's not like difficult, but too many things we're talking here. Complex type, XSD sequence, right? Then you are having sequence of these elements like 1, 2, 3, like that. ID, name. Then one element is called address. Okay, then you are going to have complex type ending, sequence ending, and complex type ending. Now the employee also will contain some elements. It also contains one address. The address is same for both the places. It contains like 4 fields address. Instead of typing the 4 fields here and here, I can create one address outside like this. Like this can be address type like this. And then I'll put the sequence of elements. What does address means? Address means it's going to have door number. It's going to have street. It's going to have city, country, like that, right? Then I can put like, no, of course, then instead of typing this 4 times both the places, I can say the type is going to be address type. That is the main purpose why you have a referring element within the same document. Just to explain, I'm just trying to explain that in the example. Okay, hope that is clear. Now, you can refer the elements of the same document with prefix, without prefix. It's up to you. In this case, I decided to refer my own elements without prefix. How can I say that? whenever your target namespace value and your some other XML-NS value, whichever is exactly same, that you are going to use to refer elements of the same document. Here I said without prefix. That means anything with which I want to refer my own elements, I'm going to refer them without prefix. Anything which is coming from this target name, I want to use XSD. But I did here differently. Anything coming from this target space, I'm going to use without any prefix. Within my own document, I'm going to use PO. It's fine. It's all logical now how you want to develop. Are you really going to write XSDs by hand? No. But you should know the concepts. That's why we are spending so much time on this. This is the last thing. That's all we have about XSD in this session. I mean, I'll take the questions, but if you want to explore further on this, you can go to any simple tutorial. Okay. The simple tutorial is W3 Schools tutorial. Like you can say XSD tutorial and go through W3 Schools. It is having some explanation about some other elements also. If you want, if you have some time, you spend like 1 or 2 hours on this. You do some more examples, try to develop some XSDs. As part of our activity guide also, I have one example. Like this is an activity guide you are going to use in your, all the practices are referred from here. XSD based on the sample XML. So you're telling you have to generate the XSD or something like that, XML, and then there are some questions asked here you have to answer. That is the practice you are doing. So you'll get some more idea about what you did. And whatever I mentioned, if you understand, that is more than enough for your practices in general for your usage in the integrations. Okay, now I'm still open for the questions. Any questions on this XSD?
Yeah, Bhaskar, I'm a little bit confused with this target namespace. I think it should be source namespace. No, we are referring.
Target namespace means you are. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I know
yes,
what you're saying.
I got the concept, but little bit. But it should be, I think, source namespace.
Yeah, but now I can't change the developer who developed it.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. It's a standard basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they said that for others it is the target namespace. That's what they meant.
Okay. Yeah. Usually industry follow which standard? XXD one first one, or the which you shows the second part, or
no, both are used. No problem. There is no change in this. It's basically what you're telling is one will be without namespace and others will be with prefixes. First one you can use with the prefix. Usually I think we use this one. I think most of the places I've seen. I think this way.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. No. Got it. Yeah.
Bhaskar, what is this qualified element default form like?
That will be always like that. Just you can. I never. Yeah. We have to say it's qualified. I don't know what's the exact.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Where's our order? I'm just seeing what they developed. Yeah. Even here also you can see all the elements are referred using XS or XSD like that. No. So they followed something like employee, like this. Whatever we developed also, right? Okay. We generated. Yeah.
Can you please show one already created XSD file which is having target namespace defined in itself, and some the example you were telling which is actually created?
Can you ask that question again?
Can you please show us the XSD file which is finally created, and by referring those namespaces we can go to that logical area where we can find the definition?
Yeah, we'll be actually doing that when you do WSDL. It will be exactly same. I'll be showing that.
Okay.
In the WSDL, actually, we're going to refer this XSDs. Okay.
Okay. So WSDL is based on XSD?
I mean, we'll see. Where I started with here, in fact, when I was discussing also, I started saying, I'm developing a definition for my web service. My web service containing one operation, I want to mention my input is employee ID or output is employee details. How will I mention that? Then I said, I need to have some type. For that type, I will be creating an XSD. That means I'm going to refer the XSD in the web service definition. So I'll be showing an example of that one, then you'll get clarity on that. Today only we are going to do that.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Any other questions on XSG?
No, Bhaskar.
Okay, excellent. I'm sure some people are asking some questions, but don't worry too much. You'll get familiar with these things when you start doing more examples and all. But if you really want to ask some question, you can ask. Don't worry. Even if it's a simple question, also we are okay with that. Okay. So with this, what I will do, we'll take 5 minutes break. Okay. I'm thinking it is you are sitting for a long time. Just 5 minutes. Okay. Don't take more than 5 minutes. 6:25 will start again. Just have some water and come back. We'll pause the recording. Where is that? Okay. Right. So next we are going to talk about web services. Just 1 second. Actually, one guy just contacted me. He wanted to join. Just giving him the details. Anybody worked with web services? Anybody knows what is WSDL, etc.? No. Right. So now coming to the web services. So in case of SOAP-based web services, so there are always 2 types of web services, right? SOAP and REST. So initially we are going to talk about SOAP web service. In the Fusion applications also, most of the services are in fact in SOAP now, but slowly they may be switching towards REST in future. Already there are some REST APIs exposed. In addition to that, they're supporting SOAP. Majority is SOAP now, so we need to know SOAP. So when it comes to SOAP, there are some standards in case of SOAP-based web services. Right. So what are the standards we're having? One standard is the payload has to be XML. When I say payload, the data what you're exchanging between client and server has to be in XML. And then I have a message. Okay, yeah, we are. And what else? Not only XML, it has to follow. There is something called SOAP packet structure. Right, it also has to expose the definition using WSDL. These are the couple of standards have to be followed. So when you say definition has to be exposed as WSDL, or definition has to be represented as a WSDL. So when I'm developing a web service, or when somebody developed a web service, now if you want to say, if you want to share the web service details to the client or whoever is going to access that, you have to show them, you have to share them the details, right? Some specifications. In case of PLSQL, it is very simple. In case of PLSQL, you don't need to, you're in PLSQL also you're having specifications separately, and you're also having the package body separately, usually, correct? So now here also same thing. When you are developing a SOAP-based web service, the web service specification will be different from the web service actual implementation. The actual implementation will be in some programming language or some technology like Java, like whatever you are like comfortable with, your company is developing. But the specification will be like what exactly URL I have to call, right? And in this, what operations are exposed by the web service, correct? And then in that web service, for each operation, what is the input and what is the output? All those details has to be available in the web service specifications. So how we are going to represent the specifications in case of web services, in SOAP web services? For that one, you have to use a WSDL document. Okay. So what is WSDL? Web service description language, web service definition language, both you can use. So the WSDL is going to define specifications of the web service. That is the WSDL. So let us open any WSDL and then let us understand, try to understand, okay? That's easy to learn these things. These are some fundamentals. We don't want to, again, like to spend hours on that. We're just learning because we need to use them. Now let us take any WSDL which is there in our files folder. Let's say get employee details, employee service. Yeah, let us look at this. It's a very simple web service. You can see my screen properly, right? Yeah, I'm also resuming the recording. Okay. So here you have this is called abstract WSDL, the one I'm showing. What is abstract WSDL? The abstract WSDL will not have the runtime information about your web service. What does the runtime information means? The actual binding information or the actual URL which you are going to call to access the web service. That information will not be there in the abstract WSDL. So in case of abstract WSDL, no binding information. That means we don't know the actual URL. No actual URL of the web service. Okay, so now, so you don't see anywhere in the URL if you look at this web service, right? Now, but how do you read the web WSDL? Whenever you open the WSDL, if you want to really read it, usually will you really read the WSDL like this? May not be, right? So usually what happens, in fact, you open the WSDL, you take the WSDL, you may be creating a SOAP project in some tool like SOAP UI if I'm using like for testing, JDeveloper like if I'm developing some like some integrations using SOA, etc. So you can go to any of those tools. You can create one SOAP project or web service project and use this WSDL document. Then you'll be able to in fact get all the operations exposed to the web service and all like the definition of those operations easily. Like you can look in the tool also. But there might be some situations where you will open the WSDL and also read it. So that is the reason again here, the expectation here when you are learning WSDL is we should know the WSDL as a topic, as a what it means and what is the meaning of each and every term, what they are using the WSDL, etc. That is more than enough. So in the WSDL, you try to read from the bottom. That will be easy to learn, easy to understand when I say. So the bottom portion in this web service, you can see there's something called port type. Okay, port type name equal to employee service port. What is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is the web service name. Indirectly, you can say employee service port. Okay. Now that has one operation. One operation. That operation has a name called EMP details. This operation has input and output. In case of web services, we say input message, output message. That is the terminology we use. Okay, input message and output message. Ultimately, what we need to know, if I go to the PLSQL package, if you are giving to me specifications, out of that specifications, If I want to call your PLSQL function, I need to know what is the function name, right? And what is the input parameter that function is expecting? What is the response or return I can expect from this function? That's all I need to know. I'm not going to have the functionality actually implemented in the specification. There's the same purpose. I'm coming to WSDL also. When I come to WSDL, I need to understand what is the operation name it is exposing, and for each operation, what is expected input, what is expected output. That's all. Now to understand that here, it is telling the input message is request message. That doesn't give any meaning actually, right? What is the meaning of request message? You need to know input message should be like employee ID. Input message or output message should be like employee details with this XML structure. Like that you need to know by end of the, when you start reading this, by end of reading, right? But how you are going to reach that request message? Then you see, if you go little up, there is a message definition for that. Okay, there is a message definition for with this name. Now what it is saying? Message name equal to request message, name equal to part 1, element equal to INP1 colon employee ID. Okay, so the input is going to be, indirectly we are telling, this is going to be employee ID. But what is that EMP ID? Where is it coming from? We already discussed that in case of SOAP-based web services, input output has to be XML. But this is not XML, right? It's telling some element name. But which element name? This element name is defined in a XSD. This element name is defined in XSD or in terms of in some target namespace. Just now we talked about XSD, target names, all that, right? So the target namespace I am referring using INP1. If you go up, you can see XML NS INP1. It is having www example org emp. This is a target namespace or the namespace I am referring. In that namespace, the XSD, whatever the XSD is actually there. From that XSD, I am using EMP ID element. Let us go and try to get that here. Now here INP1 is, this is the target names, is the namespace. Now with this namespace, if you select this one, now it's not selecting automatically, but you can see example org emp. I'm also having something here. Types. In the types, I'm having a schema. In the schema, I'm importing this namespace. I'm importing this namespace. This is the namespace, same thing. From where schema location equal to employee details.xsd. So it means the EMP ID has to be a root element available in this XSD. That's what I'm referring in this request message. Same way, reply message INP1 colon employee details coming from the same INP1 means it's at the same target namespace in the XSD. So where is the XSD now? There should be one file with this name in the same location where you have the WSDL. I took the WSDL here. You have the employee details.xsd also. You can see that employee details.xsd. You open that and see what is there. Employee details is one element. This element is ending here. You can see this element, one more element called EMP ID, and that is ending immediately. So there are two elements in this, EMP ID and employee details. I can't access this one directly outside in the definition of WSDL. I can access only the top level elements. You can see that. Now EMP ID is an integer. So basically what we are telling, in this WSDL, my request message is going to be employee ID, which will be something like, it's opening here and there, 1 second, this one here, which is going to be like this. It means the person who is going to call your web service the input will be given like this. That's the definition of this employee, right? Just now we discussed about XSD. Output is going to be this structure. It means your output will be something like this. Then employee ID may contain some value and all other fields, right? Then you are going to end employee details. So the actual response coming from this web service will follow this structure. That's what you are mentioning indirectly. You are telling in this web service definition. So now you have seen here how you can refer a target namespace of some other XSD, right? In this XML. Why I'm saying this is XML? WSDL document also represented as an XML. That is the reason this is also an example for XML. So we are talking about only XML indirectly. In fact, everything is XML. Okay, now you can bring all those things what we discussed just now, just before when you're talking XSD. We said in your XML you can have any number of XML NS properties defined. One of them can be without prefix defined, right? And you can have any other also. Now in this case, what is telling XML NS WSDL. This is again standard target namespace. This document also following some standard structure, right? There is a WSDL. I cannot go and write something else here for operation. What is user defined in this? The value for the name, the message name, right? The element name, all these values are user defined in this. But for example, types, schema, message, all these you cannot change. These are coming from WSDL, namespace. There is standard namespace. I cannot change that one. INP one is my own XSD, somebody user defined XSD. That also I'm taking from here, and from that also I'm using some elements. Then you can ignore these two. These two are basically nothing but, ignore is nothing but, I'm defining a target namespace for my XML with this one. And I'm also having XML NS with TNS as a prefix with the same thing. It means within the same document, if I have to refer anything, I have to use TNS colon. The same document, if I'm having something defined, if I want to refer that in other place in the same document, I have to use TNS colon, meaning of that. Are we doing anywhere in this document, TNS colon? Do you find it? Anybody is able to find TNS colon?
Yes, request message and reply message.
Exactly. So the request message is defined here. That's why TNS colon I'm using here. If I use this one without this message equal to, there is no meaning for that. It will fail. So the TNS colon. In case if you mention this one without prefix here, then I can use this one without prefix. The meaning is same. I'm just trying to again clarify what we discussed in the XSD when we were talking to XSD, okay? So we'll put it back TNS here, whatever was there. So in fact, this is giving some clarification about how the XSD namespace is used. And we're also understanding what is the WSDL structure. WSDL contains only 3 or 4 things. Port type, operation. There can be multiple operations, by the way. Like this, I can repeat one more operation. This one I will say process EMP salary. One more. Input message equal to salary request message. Output is going to be, let's say I don't have output, also fine. You can also have some operations without outputs also. Then you have to go and define what is salary request message. Like this, I have to create one more message here. Then put that name here. And what is going to be input for this? Is it employee ID or something else? If it is employee ID, which is going to be the same from this XSD, then I can use same thing. Otherwise, I have to import that XSD also, like how you imported here. You're going to put one more XML NS to represent, like, to refer that namespace, and use that one here, like INP2, like that. Got it? So what I was trying to summarize, yeah, web service contains port type. Inside that operations, every operation may contain input and output messages. Then you're having message definition. You're having types. Inside the types, you'll be having schema. Schema is going to import XSDs. Schema is going to import XSDs. Like that, you can import multiple schemas also. If I'm not having everything in the same XSD, I'll be importing those XSDs also. And I may be referring them. Is everything clear here?
Bhaskar, on the line number 6 as well, we are using the, if you highlight that, right? So here also we are using that schema or like XSGLC, right? Which is this URL? Namespace only, right? Yeah, namespace basically, right? Mm-hmm. And in the import section also we are doing it. So why we are doing it multiple times? Basically, why is the need of import keyword?
Yeah, import is
line number 11 and line number 6 basically.
For example, if I don't have this one, okay, right? You are only telling I want to import this one, this namespace. But where is this namespace available? That is not a standard namespace. This namespace is standard means it's a library will be having that namespace. Like whichever the platform you're using, right? That will be having XSD library, WSDL related libraries, it will be there. So it's already having those definitions. But this is a user-defined namespace. You will not get just like that.
Okay.
That is defined in some XSD document.
No, I got it. So basically, schema location, can't we do it there only? I'm just asking, maybe that could be like irrelevant question, but I was thinking that why we are putting the same thing twice, like one in the name of import and one with
these two are two different concepts. In XML, whenever you want to refer anything from some namespace, for that you need to have a XML NS definition.
Okay.
That we are doing here. But this namespace, I don't know where it is coming from. That's why I have to import it.
Import it. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm going to show one more variant of that also. You will get little more clarity on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So XML-NS, where are you telling it is being defined?
XML-NS. You're telling INP1 namespace.
No. XML-NS. Mm-hmm. It should be assigned to some like URL or something, right? Where is it assigned? It is not assigned, right?
I didn't get your question. Sorry.
Like now WSDL, the WSDL is assigned to that. Yes, yeah. Like that. So XML-NS should be assigned to by default some value, right? I am not seeing anywhere.
Without any prefix, you mean?
Yeah.
It's not mandatory. You can have without that also.
Oh.
That's why I'm telling. If somebody may create like this also.
Okay.
Then also it's fine. In that case, you have to make sure like whichever are within the document, you have to remove the TNS colon then. Okay. It's not mandatory to have without, right? With or with, it's not mandatory. You can have without any those kind of NS also. Target namespace will be there.
Okay.
You are giving target for this XML basically or XSD. Don't get confused with XML. XML, XSD are in fact indirectly there is only one, that is XML. That we are having another way saying XSD, but everything is like target namespace, and the target namespace we are having like some elements defined. You can refer them from one XML to another XML. Okay, any other questions on this? I'm today really like I went little fast.
So in WSDL type, WSDL type, where a schema is defined, we are having an tag XSD import namespace. If you go to line number 12, then we are having a namespace Yes, namespace URL. Is it an example URL? Actually, your XSD file is located at your system,
No,
and
that maybe you can find somewhere, but yeah, it's part of XSD. It's part of some libraries. It will be there, but I never tried to open that XSD and see what is there inside that. You can probably get it somewhere. Like if you want to really see this definition, right? What is there inside that target namespace or namespace? You can go and check. It will be there. In fact, it should be there in specifications or somewhere.
so
Even in the, yeah. So I believe, yeah, or this is here actually. Sorry, go back to this one. See, this is having that XSD.
okay.
You can see in this it is having message, port type, binding, like that. It will be defined here. All those things.
Okay.
This will be inbuilt in the platforms. Need not worry.
So basically, these will be the tags which we'll be using in our WSDL file.
WSDL, yes, exactly, with WSDL as a prefix.
Okay, and one more question. You have used a URL which is www.example, something like that. Can you go back again? example.org.emp. So, which is linked to your employee detail.xsd schema location.
Now
So,
open that. Yeah, open that.
You have opened this, opened that, but namespace URL, which is referring to this URL. So we can pass it anything or?
No. It's the same target namespace. You can see this.
Okay, so
what is the target namespace defined over there? I'm referring in my other file.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
That's a very good question. That clarity should be there. So what are the target namespace I define in my employee XSD? I want to refer these elements in my WSDL. How I'm going to refer? So in my WSDL, I am going to have a XMLNS with that value. I cannot change. The value has to be exactly same. This one and whatever is in the source.
Okay.
That's why somebody was saying it should be source namespace. It makes sense. So, but it's actually target namespace for something else. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Anything else not clear in this file? See, it's like no good, right? You just open and try to instead of reading and writing. I mean, reading like lots of things like what is WSDL and all. You open one small example because we all are experienced people and try to understand one by one. Then you will get clarity because our purpose is here just to understand and get clarity. Tomorrow, if you have to open any WSDL and do something, you should not be lost. Oh, what is the meaning of this one? That's the purpose. You're never going to type WSDLs. Again, I'm deviating there. In case of integration cloud, there are some situations where you're going to develop your own WSDL. I never did any other platforms. In case of Oracle SOA, we don't do that. But in case of integration cloud, for some use cases, you have to create your own WSDL. How we are going to create our own WSDLs? Am I going to type line by line? No, I'll be telling when that situation comes. Okay. Please ask if anything required. I'm assuming otherwise everybody understood that. And one request I would like to do in the session, you have to be really 100% attentive. Very, very important because it's an online training and you don't get distracted with something here and there. The whole session, you have to be 100% attentive because every sentence what I'm talking, you have to catch it. Right? Otherwise, you will just lose that touch and then you will get everything lost. All right. One more variant of WSDL quickly. Employee service like that only. I'm going to open one more employee service.
Order processing, will it be fine if you open order processing?
I'll do that, but I have a purpose why I'm open. Order processing also I can open. One second. Before that, there is one trigger, get employee trigger. Yeah, this one. Yeah, it is similar WSDL. Employee, the one I have shown, employee details. request message, reply message. Request message is coming INP1. This is correct, like this. And reply message is this is exactly same, right? What we have seen other XSD. But if you look at this one, there is some difference in the types. Okay, let me open that here. This is the old one. This is a new one. This is the old one. Old one means just now I've shown this. Here what we have? Yeah, I just changed it, right? So we have the employee details, employee ID, and then we are importing, right? But here I'm not importing. Schema is still there. Types and schema is still there here, but I'm not importing. Instead of importing, what I'm doing here, I'm putting the whole XSD definition inside my W. That also you can do. Whatever was in the XSD, I'm just copy pasting here directly. This is also okay. This is another way of some WHLs may be having like this also. All right, is that clear? Any questions on this one? I need not explain much. Earlier, what I was doing, instead of this one, I was importing from the XSD. Instead of that, I'm just copy pasting the contents of XSD here, and then I don't need to maintain the employee details or XSD separately. But still, my target namespace, what I'm defining here for this XSD has to be same. Like when I'm referring that here, and then I will be referring that here. INP1 colon will be still there. Okay. All right. In fact, that's all I wanted to cover today. The next session we are going to have on Monday. I'll be still opening for questions just before I wind up. So next session is Monday, 6:30 IST time. So before that, what I'll be doing, I'll be sharing this whole resources for you guys. You have to always go ahead with this, refer this Fusion Tech activity.pdf. I may be changing also, in fact, yeah, but it's okay. It's actually OSC. I didn't change the name. This is what you are going to have. I'm going to share 2 Google Drive folders, 2 folders separately. One folder will be having session recordings. One folder will be having this, everything what I'm showing here. In that, we'll be having one Fusion Tech activity.pdf. You open that, you have to do one by one. What is the first one here? XSD WSDL. These 2 activities you do before the next session. These are very simple examples. On top of that, if you're curious and if you have some time, if you want to explore further on XSD and WSDL, you can do that. It's up to you. It's one interest, okay? But the minimum you do this activity. How do you do activity? You just scroll down and follow the steps, whatever you have to do, okay? That much you have to do before the next session. If you need any clarifications, you just call me or send a WhatsApp message. Don't wait for the next session if you're not able to access or if you don't understand, okay? You have to make sure you are completing before the next session. I'm also going to create one Excel file and going to keep in the same folder somewhere. In Excel file, I'm going to put the first column, the practice name, and I'll be putting the name of each attendee. Then you have to, once you've done that, you have to put yes. So in the next session, I'm going to open that Excel and see who all completed the practices. If not completed, then either there will be some fine on that. Fine. Okay. So just make sure you are spending time in the practice. That's very, very important. Okay. Not joking. That's the only way you can learn, not just by attending the training. Attending the training, you will get comfortable. Okay, good. Explaining. I'm just looking at the screen, understanding. Fine. But if you don't practice, then after 1.5 months, again, when you go back to work, everything will be new for you. This is even simple things what we talked today. Once you start doing from the next session, we are going to work on the actual integration in the cloud. Today, I didn't get a chance to show the Hello World also. So we are going to actually do the practices. The first one in the next class is going to be the first very integration in the cloud. I'm going to demo the first one. From there, we'll be doing more and more practices. one more use case.
Bhaskar, I have got a couple of questions if you are completed.
Yeah, please.
First question is that, what is the role of an technical guy in the fusion?
Role, when you say technical guy, so people may be working on multiple things. So let us just try to type that here. So one thing is we're having security, understanding about security, roles, responsibilities of that. Like, no, if you're like,
but do we do that? I mean, there should be an administrator who is doing that one, right? Why should we do it?
Sorry?
Do we do that? I mean, the technical guy won't do the security thing, right? That will be done by the administrator, am I right?
See, what is technical, non-technical? Like now, if I take a person, I may be doing technical and non-technical also. It all depends, like, no, what stage you are in, right, in your company. Some junior person will say, if I'm functional, I will do only functional.
Sorry, Bhaskar, the question is different. What I'm trying to ask you is, in EBIS suite, right, we have got different roles like DBA. They do the Oracle DBA, they do the administrative work, and technical guys will do the development at the PL SQL or Java, those levels. Okay, and there will be functional guys who is handling the users and user support at the front end level. So this is the common kind of categorization in EBIS world, right? So now we have got new things coming in like SOVA, where implementation
so let me
or whatever.
Yeah, let me complete. Okay, then I
yeah, please go ahead. So I just want to make sure that roles is mapped over here to the cloud environment so that we can understand better what is our role.
Yeah. So in the technical, first of all, let us see what is there. Who will do? You can decide. Actually, I'm not going to answer that. I'll only talk about what is there in the technical.
Okay, go ahead.
So in the technical side, you can talk about security. You can think about approvals. You can also think about FBDI in case of ERP, file-based data imports, HCM data loader, or HDL in case of HCM. These are usually used for migration and bulk import of the data. Then what we have, you also need to understanding about scheduling the jobs, scheduling process. What is UCM, like file import and export. And then we have reporting. In the BIP reporting, and we also have the OTBI reporting. Then it comes to integrations. Now in this, if you want to simply understand what is technical, what is non-technical, in my opinion, all these are technical, little bit at least. Some of them can be done by the functional people also, means who are not like pure core technical people. Like, can I go and create my users, roles, etc.? If I'm not like a programming guy, yes. Can I understand about workflows, approvals? Yes. Can I do FBDI even without knowing my any technical? Yes. Can I develop OTBI reports? Yes, if I know the OTBI interface. Can I develop BIP? May not be. BIP is a little bit more technical because you have to go and create some model, all that stuff. When it comes to integrations, definitely no. If I'm a functional guy, I cannot go and create integration because it's completely technical. I have to understand web services, some integration platform, all that stuff. That's how it works. Now, is there a DBA here? No. In case of SaaS, there is no administration. Usually, we can fairly say that because you are not installing any database, you are not managing any PLSQL or SQL. You're not managing any different databases. But there can be some senior person who can be given the role of security, so that that person will be taking care of creating the required users, assigning responsibilities, etc. Rest all it is up to based on the team how it is really
Okay, I understood that. I mean, it is like we will be having some kind of system administrator and maybe a technical guy who is going to do the integrations more of, and a functional guy who is doing this loads of whatever the other loads, FEDA, FELI,
Yeah, that is like techno-functional people.
More or less, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now my next question is that, are we gonna cover any third-party adapters like Oracle? Anyway, I think we are going to cover the Oracle Cloud Adapter, if I'm correct. But are we gonna see anything like Concur, Ariba, or Adobe? I mean, do you have any examples, or we can see something?
No, that is not part of our course.
Okay. That's it. That's my questions. Thank you.
One thing I can guarantee that you will be able to use any adapter what you need. That much knowledge you will be definitely getting by end of the program.
Do we have any example for the Oracle Cloud Adapters in any case?
Yes, Cloud Adapter we'll be using.
Okay, thank you. And okay, I have got a couple of other questions, Bhaskar, but not in this session. I will probably call you. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, no problem. Sure.
Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Mo. Any other questions from anybody?
So Bhaskar, we are not done with REST and JSON, which you told earlier.
I'll be covering that in the next session. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Bhaskar, the latest WSGL which you were showing, wherein we were not importing any XSG, so that XSG information or the element information is now there in the WSGL itself, right? So can we use this element outside in some other WSGL? Basically, can we import WSGL and use it the way we are using XSG?
WSGL probably yes, but you cannot use this XSG outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That is the main difference. When you will put inside, when you will put outside. If you think your XSD will be reusable across multiple definitions, then you put this outside. If you think it is specific to my WSGL, then you put inside.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, good. So we'll be doing meeting the next session on Monday as planned. The meeting ID is going to be same. It is not going to change. I'll be removing the password most probably. I will inform that. So you'll be able to just join without my permission or password from the next class. Okay. Anything else we have before I wind up? I'm going to close the session otherwise. So make sure you spend some time on these two things, exploring that before the next session. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your patience.
Thanks, Bhaskar.
Thanks, Bhaskar. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Bhaskar. Thanks for that.
So if you have anything, you can ping me back. I'm just going to end the meeting now. Bye.